you don't feel valid within yourself because you don't have a proof of concept. You haven't proved to yourself that you're valid in this thing. You haven't proved to yourself that you're a consistent person. You haven't proved to yourself that you're a caring person, or however you want to describe yourself and be identified as. You don't have proof of that. So you want self-validation. You want to be more secure with yourself. You want to be less insecure with yourself. Well, in this video, I'll explain to you how to do that. The first step you need to do is figure out what differentiates you from other individuals. And that is usually your shadow. So we know about physical shadows, right? It's usually something that's behind you. It's usually something that's dark, and it's something that you don't see. Well, you have a physical shadow as well as a mental shadow, and it's the same thing. It's dark, it's behind you, and you usually don't want to see it. And your shadow is also what groups you up and makes you feel like you're part of a community. And usually it's what makes you feel less valid in yourself because you think of yourself as, and your problem as being something that everyone deals with. So common problems are things such as I can't lose weight, I can't make more money, I can't start that business. If I was to ask 100 people, their problems, probably 90% of those individuals will have 1 to 3 of those problems. I say that to say, when figuring out what makes you different from other individuals, you have to figure out what makes your shadow different from other individuals. Now, the problem is, like I said, similar to a physical shadow, it's dark and we don't want to see it, particularly because it's the dark side of us. And it's usually the opposite of the things that you do want to talk about or the person that you usually think that you are. I say that to say, if someone was to ask you in a job interview right now, use 5 words to describe yourself. The 5 words that you feel like are strong for you and they make up you are usually opposite of your shadow. And another technique is usually things that individuals do that annoy you because you're just like, I don't do that. I don't see how they do that. That's just not me, right? Is usually your shadow. Let me give you an example. So a couple of things I found out about my shadow is, right? If someone was to ask me, Shmaya, how are you? You know, like what words to describe you? One word I would say is independent. I'm very independent. Another word I would say is persistent / consistent, right? I think they're synonymous with each other. Those are 2 words I would use to describe myself, right? I usually probably say, try to come up with like 5. Now, what is the opposite of that? So those are the good ones, but then what is my shadow version? My shadow version of my independence, similar to a lot of shadows, comes from my childhood. I actually have a hyper independence. I'm actually too independent. And I even notice it a lot of times too with people who aren't independent. People who constantly need help with things, people who are constantly asking other individuals, you know, to help them do things annoy me. Because my whole thing is I've always had this idea that I'm an independent person and I do everything by myself and I can do anything by myself and I don't need anybody. But it comes from a hyper independence as a child. I had to be that way, even when I didn't want to. And it caused me to make decisions that I now older wish I didn't make, or things that I didn't do, but it's because I prided myself. I even say it, and now I'm starting to say it less, but I say things like, yeah, I don't say necessarily independent, but I say like, yeah, I just do what I want. Like I just do this and I do that. And so people who always need help, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of looked down on them. I looked, down on them because I felt like, why do you need help with everything? Like, why can't you do stuff yourself? Why can't you? But then I didn't realize it was a lot of times where I needed help, but I had too much pride because I had this idea that I was this independent woman and I had to be independent doing everything and I had to do everything by myself. And so my shadow version of that was having a hyper independence. My shadow version of that was that I actually want to be more dependent in life. I want to rely on more people. I want to feel like I don't have to have everything completely done, everything perfect to literally just live. I don't have to walk on eggshells like I felt like I had to as a child. And even going opposite of my persistence / consistency, right? Especially when it comes to businesses and stuff, you know, where people are trying to do goals, I always just be like, but I'm always the friend that wants to help you break it down, right? You want to lose weight? Okay, well, you should work out this day, do this, do that. You want to start that business? You should do this these days. You should do this, you should do that. But then I noticed with myself, I have an issue with consistency. Because the thing about me is, yes, in hindsight, looking at it, you know, hearing about it, yes, I've, you know, had a business, been a content creator for 4 years, and I've been doing this, or whatever the case may be. But then if you really break it down, I've done so many things within this 4 years. So it's like, what have I actually been consistent at and persistent at? But then when individuals say things that aren't about consistency, or they say things like, oh yeah, well, I started this, but then I stopped. I'm like, why you stop? Why you stop this? Why you stop that? Why you? But I never thought about my shadow. That's what I actually need to focus on, right? The most I've been consistent at is YouTube, and I've been doing YouTube for a couple months now. But even with YouTube, in the beginning, I was posting like 4 or 5 times a week. Then I went to posting like 2 times a week, and now I post Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm building up my consistency. So I say that to say you need to figure out what's your shadow, because that is what makes you an individual. That's what separates you from the group. Your shadow is not that you can't lose weight. Your shadow is not that you can't make more money. It's the thing before that. It's the reason why you can't do that. The reason why I can't achieve a lot of my goals comes from some of my things of being hyper independent, comes from some of my things of not really having real consistency and persistence. And I think that's something that you also need to use to figure out why you aren't where you want to be, instead of blaming others as well with your shadow. That's another thing I want you to realize when you're trying to validate yourself, is understanding you're not where you want to be because 90% of the reason is you. You have to stop blaming other individuals, stop blaming outside sources, stop blaming things. And when you really sit down with your shadow and figure out the things that you need to work on, you really realize, well, and now I think about it too. If I was consistent at this, I could be here. If I wasn't so hyper independent, I could have asked this person for help and that person for help. So then I could have focused on that. And to help you with those things, I just go on Google and type in shadow work. And they will have different questions for you, different activities, but that's something that you need to do when trying to validate yourself. You need to figure out what makes you different from everyone else, and what makes you different is your shadow. Next, when trying to also figure out yourself, it's very imperative to figure out that your identity is not what you achieve. It's not even what you do as far as like work or hobbies, and it's not what you have. The issue that a lot of us have is that either we feel like we have to achieve a lot to become somebody, or we feel like we are somebody just because we have certain accolades. And I'm gonna tell you, you're not nobody. Who you are is found in how you express with the things that you do, right? So an example of this, and y'all don't come for me in the comments, but it's like the church folk that go to church every single Sunday. They go to Bible study every single Thursday, and they say they love God and all this other stuff. But then you say you don't go to church, and they judge you. Like, oh, you don't go to church? Or those same folk that do all that church stuff, but then on the weekends, or then when they go out to work, they judging people that come into their office. Why she dressed like that? Why she do that? Oh, you heard so-and-so did this? Oh, you heard so-and-so did that? Yeah, he broke. He ain't got no money. But then they'll judge you for not going to church. The issue is they tied their identity to the church. You are not the church. You are a church goer. So you have to figure out who are you outside of that thing. You get what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, if the church was taken away from you, if the Bible was taken away from you, will you still be able to be that same person? A lot of people won't. And I say that to say, I know that was a kind of a specific example. I know some of them are like, you got a cross in your chain. I'm not talking about people necessarily go to church, but I feel like that's something that I've experienced before. And it's just kind of like but aren't you supposed to be this kind of individual, but you acting like this? And so I think that happens as well with people who have degrees and stuff like that. People have a degree and have this PhD and that master's degree and think they're better than other individuals because they have this kind of award. But at the end of the day, if I was to take away this education from you, if I was to take away that degree from you, are you still that individual that you claim to be? When you are figuring out your identity, it's the person that you are without all of these things. People could take that money away from you and take that car away from you, and you're still the same person. And you often see that person when you're not on your high horse, when you're not, making the most money, when you're not, you're happiest. When bad things happen, a lot of times you see who you truly are through how you express things. So are you a loving person? Are you a consistent person? Are you whatever you think that you are? You can see that from how you do things when there's nothing to get from it. How you do things when you don't have to tie it to something else. That's people's issue. When you meet somebody and they want to tell you all their achievements, they want to tell you all the things that they've done. Okay, but who are you? Because there are very, very, very good people who've never went to school. They're or I should say higher education. They're very, very, very good people that possibly don't even go to church. But they're just really good people. You get what I'm saying? They're really nice people. They're caring. They'll give you the shirt off their back. And then there's some people who do have all the degrees and they can't talk about nothing. Literally, if it has nothing to do with their degree, if it's nothing with education wise, they don't have nothing to talk about. Like, who are you? It's some individuals, you get what I'm saying, that have all of this money, but then if you want to talk about them and what do they like and what they can't talk about nothing. Oh, I just got this new car. Yeah, you saw my car? I just got. Okay, what do you like doing in your free time? Free time? Oh, well, I also just, redecorate my bedroom. I got a $10,000. They always have to tie it to something. And I want you to understand, you are not going to be valid just because you get more degrees. You are not going to be valid because you have good hobbies and you do good things in your free time. Who you truly are, to validate yourself, you have to be secure in who you are if all that stuff was taken away from you. And that's what you need to focus on. And that's what you need to realize, especially like I said, with your shadow work. Focus on that individual. Honestly, focus on the bad parts of you. Like, a lot of people don't want to look at that, but that's usually, once you start breaking down those things, once you start actually coming face to face with who you truly are outside of social media, outside of what people may think about you, and you can stand on, I'm this person, you could take away anything from me, I'm this person. That's how you learn how to validate yourself. And I want to ask yourself, do you deserve to feel validated? I think another thing we need to realize is, like, you may not feel validation. You may not feel secure in certain things because that's just not truly who you are, and you haven't done the things to make yourself feel secure, right? The reason why you can book a trip to, Italy and get on a plane is because there are people who have a proof of concept. They have a proof that the plane can fly in the air. They have a proof that the plane can go from here to there. If you get what I'm saying. Like, the reason why you bought your car and you didn't have to look at the entire manual and be like, okay, this does this and this part is here. You have that kind of idea that you feel secure in that thing is because hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people have tested this car. Hundreds, you get what I'm saying? This car been on the market for decades. It has a proof of concept. It has a proof of validation. And a lot of times you don't feel valid within yourself because you don't have a proof of concept. You haven't proved to yourself that you're valid in this thing. You haven't proved to yourself that you're a consistent person. You haven't proved to yourself that you're a caring person, or however you want to describe yourself and be identified as. You don't have proof of that. So you need to think about that as well. Like, it sounds messed up, but I think you need to understand you're not a tree. You can grow, you can restart, you can do whatever takes necessary, but don't feel like your validation has to come from your past. No, your validation actually can come from your current and your future. Because the things that you've done in the past, you cannot change. So if you keep looking for validation back there, you're never going to get it. You need to think about, okay, what am I doing moving forward that's going to validate myself? I'm not secure in myself right now. I don't feel valid with myself right now. I don't feel happy in myself right now. Okay, so what are the things that's going to be necessary for me to do to get there? But I think that's what messes up a lot of people. You think you need to wake up and feel valid. You think you need to watch a video and feel valid. You feel like you need to read a book and feel valid. That's not going to validate you. You need to have proof to yourself. You need to prove to yourself and put in the necessary actions, the necessary work, the necessary experiences so that nobody can question you. Nobody can take away that validation from you because you're like, I have proof of it. That's like somebody telling me right now, Shamaya, you don't brush your teeth. You can't make me feel unvalidated and I brush my teeth because I know I brush my teeth every morning, every night. But if I was an individual that didn't do that thing and somebody was to say something like somebody breath thing, I'd probably right? Because I'm insecure in that thing because I'm like, I didn't brush my teeth this morning. And that's how you are with yourself when it comes to doing things. You don't feel valid because there's a part of you that's like, well, I didn't do that. Well, I didn't do this. So prove to yourself, you know what? I am that girl. I am that guy. And you know why? I'm gonna prove it to you because I'm gonna show you because I'm gonna keep doing it persistently, consistently to feel secure in that thing. And the final thing I want to talk to you guys about is realizing you need to spend time with yourself, and you need to, in a sense of validating yourself, you need to do it without the ideas, without the remarks, without even the thought of other individuals. And a very imperative thing to do is getting off social media. I do social media detoxes every so often. I do them for 2 to 3 months because you need to realize social media becomes your life. A lot of people like to think like, oh, social media not real. I don't care about social media. I've said it on a lot of videos before. Your subconscious does not know real from fake. So if you are constantly consuming this information, your subconscious is going to think it to be real. And yes, you can say to yourself, oh, this not real. I don't care about this stuff. You do. That's like me saying I don't care about the club, but I go every weekend. Obviously, I care because if I didn't care, I wouldn't be there. That's like me saying I care about animals, but I don't own a pet, or I don't do anything correlated to animals. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how you are to yourself. You're saying you care about these things, and you saying you care about yourself, but at the same time, you spend more time outside of yourself than with yourself. You spend more time consuming content than you are digesting it and questioning yourself. When is the last time you actually had a time, extended period of time, outside of work, outside of a specific task that someone asked you to do, where you spent time by yourself? Because when you're in your car, you're listening to music. When you at home, you watching TV. When you working out, you listening to a podcast or whatever. You're always doing something. You need to spend time with yourself. And I probably do spend a lot of time myself because I've been working at home for 4 years. So I talk to myself a lot. But you probably need to start talking to yourself more. Like, I really try to take time out of my day where it's like I'm literally talking to me. Like, it needs to be, it's not just you just sitting there just like, no, talk to yourself. I mean, you don't gotta do it out loud. Teach his own. But literally talk to yourself. Have time with yourself, because what happens is you start thinking about yourself in correlation to everyone else. And you're not a part of everyone else. So you seek validation from everyone else. A quick example of this is when I first started college in 2018, right? That May, I turned 18 years old. I got certified to become a lash technician. Mind you, I lived in a small state and I lived in either a smaller town. I was the first girl in my area, my age range, that did lashes. Now everybody does lashes. It was so hard for me even to book clients because nobody trusted me, because they were like, what, you're doing something close to my eye, da da da. Now people let their 10-year-old cousin practice on them. Back then, they were scared. At least where I lived. I say that to say I went to college in a larger city, in a larger state, and I was in a dorm with 800 girls. Mind you, I went from a town of being really the only person my age. So I'm like, okay, when I go to college, I'm gonna do all these girls' lashes. I get to college and I see all these other girls doing lashes, and I felt insecure because I felt like, dang, it's saturated. Everybody does it. Everybody this, everybody that. I say that to say that was in 2018. It's been 6 years since then. There's girls who started after me, a year, 2, 3 years after me, that literally own suites now, that's fully booked, that, you get what I'm saying, have a large clientele. But I was scared because when I went on social media, I was scared because my perception of the whole lash game was that everyone was doing it. And so it made me feel insecure. Why? Because I'm constantly consuming content. And now that I think about it, it was only a handful of girls. But like I said, your perception is your reality, and I perceived it as being a lot. I perceived it as being a lot of people. And in actuality, I didn't see those girls on a day-to-day basis. Like, half those girls, like I said, I was in a dorm with 800 other girls. I didn't see a lot of those girls. It actually wasn't until, honestly, we got older and the girls would post, oh, my 3-year anniversary, my 2-year anniversary. And I'm like, dang, you was doing lashes? I didn't even know. But it's because I had this idea that everyone was doing them. Why? Because I was surrounding myself on a day-to-day basis with individuals that was doing it. If that makes any sense. And it was really through social media. I'm seeing all these girls on social media, and it made me feel like, oh, everyone's doing it, I shouldn't do it. And I don't necessarily regret not doing it. I mean, it just would have been a different life, I guess, for me. But I say that to say you need to think about it when it comes to social media. You start putting yourself into brackets. You start putting yourself into categories and comparing yourself to other people that in real life, there was no comparison. In real life, it wasn't that many people actually doing it. You get what I'm saying? I said it's 800 girls. It probably was like 20 girls in my dorm doing it. Maybe 30. But to me, you see 20, 30 people in your timeline, it feels like a lot. And so I say that to say I definitely recommend, honestly, for my last tip for validation, take yourself out of being a consumer and allow yourself to just live. Allow yourself during this journey of trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do to not compare yourself to other people. During this journey, allow yourself to not even think about other people, because a lot of times people's lives and what they do and whatever, it starts becoming part of you, and you start feeling insecure about things that you once were secure about. You start feeling some way about things that you once cared about. You start thinking too much about what other people are thinking. You're too worried about other people and you can't even help it, but it's because on a day-to-day basis, you know what time that girl went to work. You know that girl just lost her mom. You know that guy just graduated. You know too much stuff about other people, so when you try to live out your life and be your own individual, you constantly are asking yourself, how are other people going to think about it? Because you're thinking about other people's thoughts, and you shouldn't be. And you feel that way because you're constantly consuming things, and you just need to be. Stop consuming and just be in the moment. Stop having something that you have to do and just be with yourself and practice that, because that's also going to help you pinpoint what you need to work on. So that also is going to help you pinpoint your growth and ultimately what you have to do to feel validated within yourself. And it is going to take a process, and it's going to be years. That's, a little final tangent. I don't want y'all to think this is going to happen overnight. I don't want y'all to think this thing's going to happen in a year. Like, you're literally breaking down the layers and breaking down the walls of what make you you. And it's going to take a long time, and it's going to be scary. But one thing I want you to promise to yourself is that you're going to do it. You're going to stay consistent. You're going to stay with it. You're not going to be motivated. You're not always going to be happy, but it's necessary for you to see you for who you truly are, and not for who you are on social media, and not for who you are on a job resume or all these other things, but for who you truly are. So you can feel, secure in yourself, and nobody can take anything away from you. Nobody can do anything to you to make you act out or to make you be somebody else that you truly don't want to be, or you truly are, or you truly aren't proud of, because you truly know yourself. So I hope that video was helpful for you. I hope you got some good tidbits, some good tangents, anything out of there. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check back for new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thank y'all so much, and have a great one.